Okay, so always saying people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video as I do have a bonus pair in store. But guys, I am filming this a little bit early as I normally do on the weekend on Saturday, so things could change by the end of the week. I am not around this weekend, so I don't have time to do it then, so I'm quickly squeezing it in now. So if things do change, my apologies, but we've seen most of the week, so we should have a good rough idea what we should be expecting for next week anyway. But as always, I'll go through my trades for the week first and then progress into the analysis shortly after. If there is a particular pair you do want to see my analysis too, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps below. But I had one trade this week. I also had one trade from last week, which I'll give you guys a quick update on. So I did have a trade on this candle here, stop loss just below the low, and I did have a stop loss trailed just below this low here, which I was taken out during this week. So I had a long trade from EURUSD over from last week, got trailed out there roughly 0.75R, then I've hopped into another one which is floating in a bit of profit right now. Almost just been taken out for break even. I am break even at the moment. Did see a bit of a sell-off overnight. Price is just about holding support just above my entry, above my break even. So we'll see how that gets on. I'm looking for a continuation back to the high all the way up here. That was the plan for the first trade, but of course we just missed out on that before I did get trailed out. So I'm looking for a second attempt. The area I said which looks good to long from was this level here. Last week I said if we do come back down and test this level but we don't take out the high, then the longs still look good, and we didn't do that. So I did hopping back into some longs. So the plan is still the same, looking for continuation back to the high. Really nice impulsive move here, looking at correction, now looking at continuation higher. Now should we come back down to the level again, I won't be so keen to look to long the market, because at that point we should have continued by then. If this trend does want to continue after the second bounce, I always say I'm always interested in the first or the second bounce. Any more than that, I'm not really interested in buying or selling from a level if we're bouncing third, fourth, fifth time, because if the market is really going to hold that level, we should have reversed by then. So if it does come back down again, it takes me out of break even, I'm not so interested in buying it. I'm kind of waiting to see if what we do above the high or below that level, which talking in a bit more detail in a moment. Let's just take a look at the DXY real quick before we continue with the analysis. So DXY, again, still looking at a move back into the low here at 104. That's still the plan for the DXY. I was looking for some follow through here, didn't quite see it. One more pullback, and I'm still looking for a move to the downside. As long as we respect these lows, that was our previous lower high, which gave us this low, and now price has come back into that same resistance, and I'm expecting that lower high to continue. So bearish on DXY going into next week. Long-term bias on DXY isn't very clear for me, so I'm kind of just focusing more on short to medium-term moves for the DXY, because in the grand scheme of things, we are kind of just in a big consolidation right now. So I'm not having such clarity in the higher time frame bias, higher time frame trend, because there really isn't one. So I'm kind of focused more short-term, medium-term plays for the week, for the day. And this is what I'm favoring going into next week. So upside on EURUSD. So if you do take a look at EURUSD, in terms of opportunities to trade this one, like I said, I'm not a big fan if we do come back down into the level. I'm not a big fan if we do come back down to level. So if we do that and it takes me out break even, I kind of just will stay away from EURUSD. And even at that point, this turns into a big consolidation as well. Fairly equal lows, equal highs. Yeah, it's kind of a bit more 50-50 than we are taking advantage of a strong momentum, strong trend. So at that point, I'll kind of take a back seat. But if we start breaking structure aggressively to the downside, maybe this could be the start of reversal. This could interest me in some shorts and the retest of that area now as resistance. Likewise, if we do see some follow through above the high and this trend really gets going, and of course looking for the next correction, retest of the high, continuation, the exact pattern which I'm trading right now, retest the high here, broke through, retest, looking to buy. Same thing there, big breakthrough, looking for the retest, looking to buy. And that could be a really smart place for a long, depending on the entry signal. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards for Euro USD. Like I said, I'm looking for some downside in DXY, so I do think Euro can continue higher. If that doesn't happen, if I get stopped out and price starts dancing at that level again, not interested. We'll wait for the break of structure and then some shorts should they present themselves. Or if we do see a continuation, and the next trade I'm after will be the exact same break and retest to take price higher, back to the high, and so on and so forth. So keep an eye on 1.08929 and also 1.08 on the dot pretty much. Those are the areas of value I'll be concentrated on, and they will determine my bias going to next week for Euro USD. Okay, so over to USD JPY. So still very bullish on this market. We're still seeing the higher time frames push higher, still very consistent with the higher lows. So as a swing trader, that's the direction I want to be looking to trade in. In terms of areas of interest, I don't really have many. I'm looking at the high here, but I want to see a bigger breakout as I was explaining last week and during this week as well during my streams. And I do like the low here. Should we see a bigger pullback all the way back down to 153.600? That area still looks good to me as well for a long. But essentially, I want to see a bigger breakout than this to then look for a pullback. This is too shallow for me to consider a break and retest of the high here. So should we continue a little bit higher next week and then revisit, this could be something I'm interested in. Of course, depending on the pullback, depending on the entry signal, it could look really, really good for some longs. But essentially, I think there's a good chance that dollar yen does get back to this body here where we had that big piercing wick through to test that as resistance and maybe even go and take out the wick high eventually as well. So there is upside potential, there is upside targets for dollar yen should we decide to go higher, but I want to see a bit more conviction before I do consider a breaking test of 156.700. Should we decide to sell off and sell off quite aggressively, then I will be looking at a retest of the low here, even the retest of the low here as well, 152. That could definitely interest me as well. But essentially, I'm looking for a healthy pullback. We've been quite correct in moving up. This could be the pullback. All price needs to continue higher and you know, break the targets here on the left. That's fine. If that's the case, you know, so be it. But I want to look for a healthy pullback, at least pullback near the 50% of the Fibonacci. That shows me that price has had a decent pullback and is likely to spring back to the upside. And we haven't really seen that yet. So waiting for a bigger break, then a pullback or retest the low, and then I'll see what we can do at the lows there. But only looking at dollar yen buys for next week, pretty much goes for most yen pairs. But I would keep an eye on 156.700. Should we see a bigger break and a pullback, or we see a bigger move back down, then I'm looking at 153.700 for next week. Okay, so over to USD CAD. So USD CAD still bearish bias on this one and the dollar pair. Like I said, I'm still leaning towards bearishness for USD itself. And USD CAD does look like to me it's slowly bleeding to the downside. We're still very consistent with the lower highs here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and potentially a fifth one there. And we do have our lovely level of support going across here, which is the level I'm looking for price to break, and then retest, and then look for that next lower high to then short. That's the plan I have for USD CAD, because we do have a pretty sturdy level of support and resistance here. As you can see, held resistance very well, big breakout, held support very well too. So I do want to see price break that, really show to me that, okay, we're starting to roll over, we're starting to reverse this bullish trend, and we're likely to form another lower high and continue. That is the idea I'm looking at, because quite frankly, this is pretty much consolidation really, so I'm not really wanting to trade in this area here. But if we do break through the area, that shows me a bit of conviction with the bears, maybe take out some lows here as well. And then I'll be expecting the low high to form to continue with that structure and a push back into the prior low wherever that low does form. So yeah, USD CAD I am bearish. I do think there's a good chance we do eventually break through support. But of course we have to break through support before I consider the sell, so a lot needs to happen. So we'll keep tabs on USD CAD, but like I said, this is more consolidation than anything, so I'm not really keen trading in there. But should we see a break of it and a retest, that does interest me a lot. So keeping a close eye on 1.36, looking to short from there, but first we do need that breakout for next week. Okay, so over to euro pound. So euro pound, I am still looking at, well, I was going to say I'm still looking at downside, which I am, but I do want to see a pretty big retracement first, which could be a really good buy opportunity, depending on what trades you are after. Because if I do expand to the daily chart, this to me just looks like a big consolidation really for euro pound. So price action hasn't been that clear. You can see we're trading right at the low there. A lot of previous rejections at this area, and we could be seeing another one right now. We saw a really aggressive wick, I believe, on Wednesday. Wednesday, really aggressive wick to the downside. Let me jump to the 4H. So yeah, really aggressive wick to the downside, and this could potentially be the catalyst that does propel price higher. But essentially what I'm looking at is exactly what I was talking about last week on my weekly analysis, which was another retest of this level. Because if I'm looking to sell the market, I need to make sure I'm selling from a smart place and that the market's high up and likely to reverse back down. Like I said, we do have a big level here, but this is not a big enough retracement, big enough pullback for me to consider price reversing. But the level above it is most definitely, as we can see, held as resistance very well. Not over here so much, but we are forming these lower highs. So I do think we have a good case to form another one and kind of continue that bearish structure to the downside. So what I'm looking at is a big move up for a big move back down. Basically continuing the condition of the market, which is this big consolidation, another big move up from that big level of support, and then some shorts. So if you're after some reverse opportunities, then looking to long from this low here makes perfect sense. Again, a little bit too aggressive for my liking. I'd prefer to short from this level here. But both the buys, both the sells do have a lot of confidence behind them. But just because this one's a bit more aggressive, a bit more reversal type trade, it does put me off. Whereas this is looking for a bit more of a continuation, which I do like. So I'm eager with the shorts with euro pound from 0.858, but the buys do look good as well, and risk reward looks pretty good as well. So it makes sense. Of course, it's up to you, but this is what I'm looking at for euro pound, a big move up and then for a sell off as we approach that big level of resistance. So that is the analysis going into next week for euro pound. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar is just a very choppy pair. I don't really have a clear-cut setup for this one. A lot needs to happen for me to be interested in trading Aussie dollar next week. What I'm looking at is a big ranging market and two fake outs, one to the downside over here and one to the upside over here. And looks like the price is kind of just dancing around the resistance, so it's not even really too sure itself whether it's trying to break out again or reject it as resistance. So what I want to see for euro pound, what I want to see for Aussie dollar is a big move higher, breaking through the highs here as well. That'll tell me that, okay, now most likely we have got the breakout, and pullbacks after that should look good for some long opportunities. So that would be a very clear opportunity telling me that, okay, we've got the breakout, we've taken out the previous high, the trend to the upside is likely to continue. What I'm seeing right now is kind of 50-50. This potentially could be a fake out, which could then mean prices like to sell off back within the range. As I've said many times, I'm not looking to trade the Aussie dollar within the range here. I'm kind of staying back. I want to see price break higher, and then I'll take that higher, or break lower, and then I'll be looking for pullbacks lower. So that's very much what I'm interested in Aussie dollar. Inside here is a bit more 50-50, so that's why I'm staying out the market. So yeah, I'm waiting for price to either break the high or break to the downside again. Obviously that probably won't happen within 1 week, but we may break the high, so that could interest me if we do see it. But otherwise I'm not interested at all in Aussie dollar, especially when we're trading inside the range here. So if I highlight the high here, I kind of want to see price break through that, and then I'll be considering some retest, maybe of this prior high turn support. That could give us a really nice place for a long, should we see a nice rejection of that level. Of course, this is very theoretical. It could change based on price action, maybe looking at breaking retest of that high there, depending on the breakout. So we'll, of course, stay in tune with the market and react to what the market's giving us. But at the moment, I do want to see a lot of conviction higher. And then if it is sufficient, break some highs, I will be looking for my pullbacks and expecting more upside. But right now it's more 50-50 than anything, so not reading too much into that price action. If anything, you had a fake out, we could actually see a big sell-off. So yeah, that could be a big possibility as well. But for me, this is what does interest me, because at that point, we've got a trend and I'm following it. So yeah, that is what I'm looking at going into next week for Aussie dollar. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD I am bullish on, but I am looking for a pretty big pullback before I am interested in looking to long this one. This is the high. If I go to the daily chart, see a little bit clearer. We've had a really exceptional move higher, back to the high there, and we've just taken it out as well. This was our prior high, which gave us this low. Now price has broken structure just about, taking out the high there. So I'm looking at a bit of a relief in price, because I'm not looking to buy the market in this area. This is seller's territory. Big rejection there. You can see some wicks forming as well. Market's looking tired. So I want to see the market take a breather, retrace, and for me this is like a really good level. As you can see, brief resistance there. Market stalled there a little bit as well. Big breakout. You can see if I do drop to the 4H, no real retest of that level either as well. So for me, it's a nice fresh level of resistance, turn support, which is likely to see a bounce. And best case scenario, price comes into this area, sees a nice pullback, and we continue all the way back to the high, and maybe even higher as well. But yeah, all I'm seeing right now is a lot of corrective price action. So again, there could be some sells taking it back down again. It's a bit more of an aggressive trade, but I can see the logic there with the sells. And it may take a while for us to get down there in the first place, so you might want to be looking to short it in the meantime. But for me, I trade a bunch of pairs, so I'm looking for the best opportunities I can find. For NZD CAD, this is the best opportunity here for me, which looks really good. And should we get there, I will be interested in some longs. But there are other pairs that do look good for next week, which again, you'll see as we progress through the analysis. But NZD CAD, really nice, impressive move to the upside, impressive impulse. Now I want to see a pullback of that, retest the key level, and a continuation. So this still remains the analysis going into next week for NZD CAD. Okay, so moving on to pound NZD. So it looks like we're getting consolidation at this point in time. I am still bearish on the pair because we are still forming those low lows and low highs. We have broke structure here on the left as well. So I do expect more downside. And last week, did not mean to do that. Last week I was talking about a breaking retest of this low here, and I said if we do see a sufficient break of that, this could end up being a really nice breaking retest opportunity to short. On the daily chart, I have been talking about a push it back into the low here. Should we see a nice break of the consolidation to the downside, we're then looking for a retest, then short back into the low around 2.04. So the plan is still short bias. If we do break higher, there may be some long opportunities on a retest of a high. So that could be a possibility, but my directional bias is still pretty bearish, so I'm focused with the bearish side of things. So I do want to see some conviction through this level, then look for the next lower high and a continuation, because we are still steadily forming the lower highs. We're just still very, very corrective. So it's there's a slight bearish tint to it, but yeah, this is pretty much consolidation really. So what I want to see is a big break of that, continue to the downside, and then hopefully that will leave us a really nice level to then short from, should we see a retest of it. And then again, looking for that next lower high on the retest of that level, and then we'll anticipate some follow through back to that daily swing low at 2.04. So yeah, pound NZD in my book is still looking pretty bearish, still expecting more downside. It's quite corrective, so we might even just consolidate for the rest of next week as well. So if that's the case, again, I do not want to trade inside here. It's too corrective, lacking momentum, lacking conviction. So anything in here is void to me. But if you do see some conviction outside of it, then things get a bit more interesting, and likewise to the upside as well. But yeah, I'm more focused on the short. So that is the plan I have next week for pound NZD. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen still bullish bias. Again, all the yen pairs still very consistent with the higher lows and higher highs throughout the major time frames, daily, weekly, monthly. So still looking at more upside. I did highlight this area this week as a nice place for support. We are at the moment bouncing from that area. Should we come back down there again, for me this still looks like a good buying opportunity. If I whip out the Fibonacci from the swing low to swing high, you can see we just about got the 50 there as well. So it's a good confluence, healthy pullback. And I would still expect more upside. I'm looking for us to come into the body there, which is around 115,800. So in my book, we still do have upside targets to fulfill, and even possibly the wick there as well, which is quite far away, but definitely doable. Some other yen pairs have taken out their corresponding wick, so I think CAD yen could probably follow suit. I'm not seeing any signs that we're about to get reversal just yet. I'm sure a little bit corrective, but the market keeps giving us these pullbacks and keeps tiring and keeps putting in these higher lows and being very, very consistent at that for quite some time now. So looking to keep looking for those buy opportunities. Sure, there may be some counter trading sells, but I'm very focused on the long. So if we get back down to this level again, see some more rejection, some nice wicks form, this could end up being a really smart place for a buy. Back to the swing high here at 115,200, or if we want to push a little bit further, we do have that resistance just above it. But of course, that'll be up to you, the individual trader. But in terms of direction, looking for buy opportunities, 114,300, 114,200 is a solid level. So keep an eye out should we retest that level again. But yeah, still expecting a lot more upside going into next week. Okay, so over to pound USD. So pound USD, the same level still interests me as I was talking about last week, which is the high here. We had a lovely impulse, correction, another impulse to the upside, and again looking at the correction for another impulse to the upside. So very, very straightforward plan for pound USD. We've had a big push to the downside, taking up the lows here. This to me looks like a potentially big fake out, maybe even printing in another higher low. So one over there, second, and potentially a third. So if that's the case, there's a good chance we're going to see even more follow through to the upside. So now that we've had that big move down and potentially the catalyst to now really see price continue, we have left behind a solid level of resistance, now turn support, which price didn't come back to retest on the 4 hour. So still a relatively fresh level for us to buy from. I like the fact that we got some lows here, which looks like price may go and take out. And again, that could be a nice grab of liquidity to then springboard us higher. So a lot of confidence down here at 1.26300, and that is where I'll be looking for my entries. And then in terms of targets, we can potentially look to target right back at the high again, around 1.28 there as well. So yeah, very bullish on pound USD. I think we're also coming to the 50% of the Fibonacci as well. So it's looking really, really good there for pound. Let's see if we can get there next week and try and catch some buys there, potentially back to the high. Okay, so over to pound CAD. So a very similar opportunity to pound USD. I'm looking for the big retest of this level here. We broke through not too long ago and haven't really had a strong retest of it. Maybe a minor breaking retest there, but I'm looking for a bigger now pullback into that same level. We've had a lovely impulse over here, somewhat of a correction, more of a consolidation. Now looking for a bigger correction, if you will, to then see the next higher low. But if I do expand to the higher time frames, you can see we do have somewhat of a bullish market. We've been pretty consistent with the higher lows here. So again, looking for another one to print, another push higher. As long as we maintain that uptrend, I'm very focused on the longs. Not really interested in the shorts at all, really. Again, not that you can't find a good trade there, it's just that if the market's gonna continue higher, that's kind of the direction I want to be holding trades in as well, especially as a swing trader. So pound CAD, I like the buys here, 1.72300. That is where I'll be keeping my eye on. There is a level of resistance just on the left here, but the breakout is not quite big enough for me to consider a retest of that level. It could hold potentially, but I have a lot more confidence here, a lot more focus down here. So that's where I'm hoping price can get to next week. And then I'll be looking for my longs, and best case scenario, we take it right back to the high as well. So yeah, pound CAD looking good. We'll keep a close eye on that level should we get there. A long way to go, but if we do get there, I think we can get nice buys. And then yeah, looking for a push back into the swing high for next week. Okay, so over to pound yen. So pound yen still looking very bullish. We just about took out the wick high this week, so I'm looking for a bigger retracement. As I was explaining last week, this is the area I'm looking at. We do have some nice Fibonacci confidence here, approaching the 50, 0.618 as well. So I'm really liking potentially a pullback into this area, 198. Right now, kind of in the middle of nowhere, really, at least in my book. I'm not really seeing much significance in the price action here. maybe a little bit of consolidation in the lower time frames as we push up, but nothing that will get me excited in a long. So I'm looking for price to have a bit bigger of a pullback, test some key areas, and then see the next push up. Again, pound yen, higher time frames are still very bullish, seeing successive higher lows. So I'm looking for the next one, for next push higher. So very, very straightforward price action, clear uptrend, clear as day. So now just looking at a healthy pullback. I know we've had somewhat of a healthy pullback and some wicks to the downside. So price may potentially continue higher without giving us that extra move lower. If that's the case, that's the case. I'm not here to take every trade. I'm just looking at the best case scenario and trades that fit my plan well, and looking to buy it around here would do so. So that's where I'm waiting for price to get to. If it does, and then I'm looking for some opportunities to take price higher, back into the swing high for next week. Okay, so over to gold next. So gold, I'm still very bullish on. As I said last week, as long as we stay above 28.83, I'm looking for a big swing back to the upside, eventually back to the high there at 24.40. So right now I'm kind of seeing consolidation, maybe a bit of a descending channel could be forming here, as expected, because we've had a really big move to the downside. Now I'm kind of looking at price slowly pushing down, consolidating, kind of finding its feet before we see that next high low print. So I'm wanting price to kind of push a little bit deeper, hopefully back to the low here, and then maybe that could be the level, the catalyst that sends price back up again. Like I said last week, I'm not seeing a concrete level that has formed yet, apart from this low, which I'm looking to buy from. Maybe a breaking retest of this high here, should we see a real strong breakout of that area. That could potentially entice me for some longs, something like this for the next high low, and then a move up higher. So that could potentially interest me. It just depends on how we get the breakout and how much momentum we see, whether I would look to get long or not. But all I'm looking for is buying opportunities. We're still a very bullish market. I know we sold off a little bit, but if you look at the grand scheme of things, daily chart, it's still very, very bullish. So I do think there is a good opportunity for us to take some buys and take price higher. Just need to wait for it to form. So keep an eye on the breaking retest of that high 23.64, and also the prior low there as well looks pretty good. Should we get there around 22.83? So that's the plan next week for gold. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, it does look like price is trying to break higher. In the grand scheme of things, we're still kind of stuck within this range here. So price is still stalling. But we're trying to show momentum, we're trying to break higher, we've seen some big candles pushing us higher. So if this is the next bullish wave for Bitcoin and we are going to see price break higher, then let's start breaking the highs, let's start really showing momentum again, like we did over here, like we did over there, like we did over there, breaking the highs again, and that could give us a lot more confidence to be looking for pullbacks and anticipating the market to continue higher, looking for break and retest, and position yourself long for some nice swing trades. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing for Bitcoin, because other than that, like I said, we're still in that range. So I would kind of avoid trading Bitcoin right about now. Should we get another sell-off, this could be a really nice place to buy it back up again. But if we are going to see momentum just kind of slowly break us out, then let's see evidence of that momentum coming back into the market again. And in turn, this could be a really nice breaking test of that high, because maybe this bull flag kind of correction may be over with, and now we're going to see the next phase. So I do like Bitcoin to the upside. In the longer term, I've always spoken about this impulse leg. I do think this is just a correction for another move higher. Whether we see that conviction now and get the break and retest, or we have a bigger move down and then we push up again, either which way, they both look like good opportunities. Of course, maybe a bit more rewarding this opportunity down here. But if we are going to see momentum and the market's just going to break higher, then your next best bet would be something like this on the full H time frame, break of the high, pullback, and looking for some entries on top of that level. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Bitcoin. If we do have the bigger pullback, then of course keep an eye out for the buys down here. But of course that may take a long while for us to get there. We do have this 28K area, not 28K, sorry, 52. I don't know where I got 28K from. Not even close. So yeah, we do have a retest of this area potentially as well we could dip into before long. So I do like the buys down here, very, very rewarding if we do catch it right, but maybe the momentum is just going to take us higher. So I would also keep an eye on that opportunity there as well. So yeah, that is the outlook going into next week for Bitcoin. And last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which for this week is Pound CHF. I'm looking for buys at the moment, really, for Pound CHF. It's looking very, very bullish. We are approaching a really nice level of prior resistance in the market, which price has broke through very aggressively and now coming back for its first retest of it. We're also coming back into the Fibonacci, 50%, I believe, of this swing here from the high to the low. So yeah, we've got some really nice confluence coming into this area, looking for a bounce. Of course, best case scenario, we see a higher low and price push back to the high. But again, we don't need price to push all the way back to the high to make a decent profit. We could even see price pull back to this area here. But we had a brief stallment in price there before a big push down. We could push up into that area, maybe sell off again, and this move could still be worthwhile profiting from. So that's kind of what I'm after for Pound CHF. In terms of the current price action, because we are trading at my area of interest right now, we're not really seeing too much. We did see a bit of upside there come Asian session, but London's kicking it in about now and we're seeing some follow through. So let's see if we can get some wicks to the downside, maybe some buys, or if we kind of consolidate, maybe we might see a setup sometime later in next week. But essentially looking for confirmations in this 1.15 area, nice psychological level there as well. So keeping a very close eye on Pound CHF because we're in the level right now. And there's a lot of confluence there, really sturdy move down to with a lot of force. So kind of want to see price show a lot of rejection to show me that, okay, momentum has dissipated and we're likely to see a push higher. And then I'll be looking for opportunities to pounce. But yeah, Pound CHF's come back to a really nice area. I think it is my favorite CHF pair out of the lot because we've seen a lot of downside with the CHF pairs this week, but Pound CHF has fallen into a really nice level of confluence, leaving a bit of a wick there to the upside. So we'll see how that 4H kind of closes, but I am looking at a big bounce higher at some point for Pound CHF. And that, guys, does bring us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It does really help out there, of course. And make sure you do hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. I have filmed this analysis a little bit early because I am away this weekend, so I do apologize for that. The market could change quite a lot. I think we do have news today as well later, so that could change the market even more. But we've got a rough idea of what we're looking at next week, so I do hope you do find a lot of use in this analysis. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.